Microsoft Flight Simulator is the latest in Microsoft's series of flight simulators and is available on PC and both Xbox Series X and S. In this video we'll be focusing on the console version of the game when played using an Xbox controller, such as a standard controller or an Xbox adaptive controller, or an alternative compatible controller. All gameplay footage is captured on an Xbox Series S. This type of game is generally known for having complex controls and gameplay, and as a simulator the game is able to provide an in-depth and technically challenging experience for those that want it. But it also has a range of settings that could help make it a much more accessible experience for many players, and it also allows players to enjoy the experience more casually. In this video we'll be focusing on playing this way, with the full range of accessibility settings related to flight controls switched on. We will first look at the settings and then show how you can start the game with your plane already in the sky, which means that you do not need to either take off or land, and can potentially play with access to less controls. We will then look at the AI controlled plane, meaning that you can ask the computer to fly for you, before taking a look at the basic controls for taking off and landing a small aircraft, which means that you would potentially need to use more inputs on the controller. Finally, we will have a quick look at the controller remapping options to customize the control inputs that you use. On first startup, the game will offer some different settings, including assistant settings. By default, the selected option is all assists. These can also be accessed after this by heading to options and then assistance options, where you can also select from 3 different global accessibility settings. All assists provide both assistance and instructions when in flight by an AI copilot. Middle ground provides some guidance, but less so than all assists. True to Life is designed to provide a more authentic experience with less help from the AI. All of these 3 global settings also allow you to customize individual assistant settings by clicking on each option. For example, if you wanted all of the assists on but wanted to switch off unlimited fuel, you can do this by going into aircraft systems and switching unlimited fuel off. This means that you will have the benefits of the assists when controlling the game, but still have to consider fuel consumption and plan your flight around this, which some players might enjoy. To change back to default and have all of the assists switched on, press X. To start a journey, you can either start on a runway or you can start already in the sky. If you choose to start on the runway, you can either manually take off or choose for the AI pilot to take off for you. If you would like to start in the sky, you potentially will not need access to as many controls, and you can also pick anywhere in the world as your departure location. The first option is to try the discovery flights, which can be accessed via the main menu or by pausing the game at any time. Here there are several experiences that are included as part of the initial download of the game, and several more which you can download. By clicking on one that you have already downloaded, you will start that flight already in the sky. You control the plane with the left stick, by default controlling the pitch axis by pulling back to ascend, forward to descend, and left and right on the stick to control the roll axis, to steer the plane left and right. It is possible to enjoy casual flights, exploring locations just using the left stick, especially within the discovery flights. Here, once the game has been loaded, we are just using the left stick to control the plane. It is worth noting that by just using the left stick, you do not have some of the other basic controls such as throttle control, meaning that you cannot control the speed of the plane. This means that it may not be possible to ascend to the maximum height, so getting over higher ground can be difficult. One helpful assist included in the All Assists option is the AI Anti-Stall Assist, which will keep the engine running if you attempt to descend or ascend too quickly. There is the option to go into the settings and change the sensitivity and deadzone of the stick, which may be helpful for some players. A lower sensitivity combined with a larger deadzone may mean that the game does not pick up some accidental movement of the left stick. Another way to use a single stick would be to have the AI control the plane, and you can use the right stick to control the camera whilst the computer controls the plane for you. To set up AI control, click the left stick to enter cursor mode. The AI will temporarily take over controls whilst in this mode. Now go to Flight Assistant option and press A. Move the cursor down and select AI Piloting. Click on the small cross icon or Flight Assistant icon to close the window, and then press left stick click again to exit cursor mode. The AI will now control the plane for you, giving you the option to use the right stick to look around. Right stick click will recenter the camera. If you wish to see from inside the plane, press the view button and then use right stick to look around. It is worth noting that whilst the AI pilot can take off and control the plane for you, taking you to your next destination, it can at times fail to adapt to certain situations, such as if there is high obstacles in your path. The AI may not fly around or over obstacles and may crash. Despite this, it could be useful for many players who wish to play using a single stick or who need to take a rest while playing. To switch the AI pilot off, you need to go back into cursor mode and switch it off manually. You can also choose to start from the sky by heading to the world map and clicking on any starting location. If you would prefer to start at an airport or airfield, you can do this, but will need to either take off manually or get the AI pilot to take off for you. If you have access to some of the buttons and trigger inputs on the controller along with the left stick, you will be able to fly with more manual control of the plane's functions to control actions such as speed, yaw and braking to enable manual takeoff and landing, while still using the assistant settings. As we showed before, if you have access to the right stick, you can use this to control the camera, which can be useful for looking around in these situations to navigate your surroundings. The use of the left and right stick can be alternated as they do not need to be used simultaneously. The right stick is also used for scrolling to navigate many of the menus, along with the left stick which controls a cursor. The D-pad can be used as an alternative way to navigate some menus. It may be useful to try some of the training activities to practice and learn more about the controls and handling of the plane for these situations. We will go through some of the more commonly used controls used for casual flying with all assists on, including some of those used for taking off and landing a small plane. Controls can be remapped in game, which we will show later on. By default, the A button is to increase power with the throttle, which can be used to increase speed whilst in the air or on the ground and can cause the plane to increase altitude depending on your pitch. You hold the A button down until you have reached your target RPM and then release it. The B button by default is used to decrease power with the throttle, which will lower your speed and can reduce altitude, again depending on your pitch. You hold the B button until you have reached your target RPM and then release it. By default, left trigger and right trigger control the rudders, which control the yaw of the plane when in the air. They can also be used when on the ground to steer the plane on the runway when taxiing, and can be used when taking off, to ensure that the plane is in line with the centre of the runway. To take off, press left on the D-pad to remove the parking brake. Now hold down the A button to increase the throttle to maximum. If required, you can use the left and right triggers to control the rudder and keep the plane in centre with the runway, although in clear conditions this may not be required. When prompted, pull back gently on the left stick to take off. When landing, B can be used to decrease the throttle. Up and down on the D-pad can be used to adjust the plane's flaps, which can be used to slow the plane further. Right on the D-pad can be used to manually lower or raise the landing gear. Left stick can be used to line up with the runway, bringing the nose down and flare the nose just before touching down. X is then used to brake once on the runway, and the triggers can then be used to turn the plane on the runway. If you find that accessing certain parts of the controller are easier than others, then there are some remapping options that might help. Head to the Options tab and then Control Options. From here, pick the control that you would like to change and select which input that you would like to change it to. The game may warn you if this button is already mapped to another control, so in some instances it may be best to do a complete swap, especially if you are swapping with a control that you do not need. We hope that this video has been helpful. If you have any questions about video game accessibility, then please do get in touch.